Well, I don't know that this is going to be much better, but I tried. I reset my internet and it's still low. So I apologize if there's problems, but it looks like there's going to be, I don't know what's going on. I've had internet problems again the last few days. So we'll give it a go. And if it's really, really bad, then I guess I'm not supposed to do this. So I'll wait for the people who were on the other one to hop over here. If there's anybody still patiently waiting. Oh, man. Ixie's very chatty today. So yeah, I'm going to repeat some of the stuff I was just saying, but feel free to chime in and in the comments and let me know your thoughts on what's going on in the uprising, because what I'm seeing is that there's a lot of personal uprising, uprising within. Hi, nobody knows. So there's uprising within, and it's being reflected on the outside. And like I was saying, I've been talking about this in my podcast and in the videos and mentioning it quite a bit. Ixie, come on. And so it's, hi, Miriam. Hi, Leaves of Grass. Good to see you. Hey, Ixie, get out of here. Come on. Okay. Ixie's trying to distract me, and my internet is wobbly, and I'm really, really sorry that this is not going very smoothly. But do let me know if the internet being spotty is terrible. Ixie, come on. Okay. The reason that I wanted to talk about this is because there's going to be a lot of distractions that are going to pull you back into the 3D. And if you're not very, if you're not cognizant of that and you're not firm in what you know, you could be pulled back into the 3D. And what I mean by the 3D is like the duality pillars. Ixie, stop this. Come on. The duality pillars and how they keep you bouncing back and forth between the duality and the contrast. And thanks, Warren Jackson. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit difficult to not get pulled in as if all of this is real. And I'm trying to see what this. So yeah, I wanted to also, there's a poll in the chat, and I wanted to get a sense of where you're at in your perception of what's going on and how you view the world, because and there's no wrong answer. It is how you view the world, so there's no wrong answer. Don't feel that there's any pressure or anything to have it right. But everything is about perception. And the point is to elevate your perception so that you see reality, a reality as it, well, truly is. And so if however it is that you are perceiving it is fine, it's where you're at, it's totally acceptable. And it's also up to you if you want to change your perception or not, because if you're still in the duality pillars and or the 3D, however you want to describe it, Ixie, get out of there. Get out of there. No. No. Come on. Come on. Get out. If you're still in the duality pillars, that's totally fine. It's just there's another way to see it that is freeing. And I'm currently in the phase where I see this all as a dream and a story and a movie. And a lot of like the work that I do is showing you this, but if you can't see it, you can't see it. So, I'm trying to see if there's a way to bridge that gap to help. But, again, I can only do so much. It's down to you, and you can't see it until you see it. And then once you see it, you don't unsee it. So it's anyway, the uprising that's going on is highly controversial, and there's a lot of censorship. There's a lot of manipulation. Like I was saying in my podcast, there's a lot of manipulation of the media in manipulating your perception and trying to get you to hold to whatever perception they want you to hold to. But the point of it all is to get you to think for yourself, because there's going to be so many conflicting perspectives that it's going to be very confusing. And all of the activity that's going on out there is part of the movie. It's part of the show. And they showed us all events incoming with the Last Supper 33 days later is August 28th. Outage 19 July, 17 days later, August 5th plus 17 is August 23rd. Last Supper, Olympics 26 plus. Okay. I'm not, I don't follow that kind of thing, so I don't really understand any of it, but I know a lot of people do. So you're expecting a power outage? Like, I'm not understanding what are you expecting to have happen, or do you not know? I mean, it's okay if you don't know. Anyhow, there's also, like I was saying, there's also an internal uprising. There's an internal battle that's going on, and I did talk about this in the Decode on Southport. And the battle that's going on is that you're going to have to face your fears if you haven't already done that. And certain fears are going to come up, and they can spook you into following one of the duality pillars. As I said before, it's totally fine if that's fine for you. This is your journey and your path. So, but if it's not fine, then be aware that this is a potential thing that can happen for you or to you. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit distracted by this internet problem. So I'm a little bit stiff today. 28 mega. I don't understand what that means. Tsunami Trump shot again. September is water event. October 8th month is the main event. Okay. Well, like I say, like, it seems to be okay now. Okay. So there are going to be externalized events on what we call if you want to call it the world stage. The world stage is everything, including your own life. So even we have a tendency to think that the world stage is, what's happening on television, and it's happening everywhere. The world stage is the world. So you're part of it. And you are witness to the movie. You are in the movie. So it's yeah, exactly. Earth is an anagram for theater. And so there's no separation of what you experience in your own life and what you see reflected sort of out there, if you will. So it's difficult because I went through that stage too, where I thought the world stage was out there and separate from me and had nothing to do with me. And now I realize that it does have to do with me. So there is no separation. And the world stage is simply a reflection of what is going on within. So it is a bit of a hurdle to get to be able to see that, to be able to understand that is not separate. And also, like, understanding that there's no they, like, pointing it, I mean, there is a they and there isn't a they, which I also addressed in the podcast. And if you haven't been to my podcast, it's on Spotify. There's a link in the description box of the podcast video. So I talk about this in the latest podcast, and how the they is merely a projection. It's part of the system that we're in, I guess, if you want to call it a system, but it's the dream structure. So it's part of the story structure. And in the sense, like, it's not really they, it's still you. So it to move away. Well, you don't have to do anything, but if you want to see things from a different perspective or a higher perspective, you ultimately want to get away from pointing the finger at they, because you're just basically pointing the finger at yourself, and understand the true nature of this reality and the dream within a dream and how that operates and what that really means. It is all scripted from the stars. Yes. It's like the CD disc stars, zodiac, dream, tarot play is projected onto the world stage, and you are a part of it. So there is, like I said, there's no separation. You're a part of it. So understanding where you fit in that play and why you're here it's important if it's important to you. For some people, it may not be important. But getting pulled back into the 3D mundane, what is meant by that is that us versus them, the 3D mentality, the lower consciousness mind. If the goal is to return home, to know who you really are, to understand the true nature of this reality, to know where we are, why we're here, who we are, so that we can return home. And granted, most people, they're going to only wake up to certain levels. So it's not like there's much you can do for some people, because that's as far as they're going to go. But if you want to know really what's going on, and what's the word? Damn it, that word's just blocked now. I can't even think of the word. Anyway, if you want to know that information, then you have to release your blocks to receiving that information, and that means releasing some beliefs that are limiting you from seeing it. It's all about perception. And when I put out some of these videos that are very controversial, especially about these particular events, it's very difficult to comprehend that we are in a movie, that it's not real. Um, it's very easy to rationalize why there are holes in these events and why certain things happen a certain way, because you don't want to accept, your ego is protecting you, and you don't want to accept that this is the truth, which you will accept it if you're meant to. You will accept it if you're ready for it. If you're not ready for it, it can be very painful to accept. So, there's no need to force yourself or anything. It'll happen if it's meant to happen. And one day it'll click for you. You'll see it. You'll know it. You'll internalize it. You'll be able to see it. Yeah, it's not perception. It's persistence. Persistence. That's the word. But yeah, if you persist, then it will come to you. So, but thank you. So yeah, like the perception, one of the films that I was watching in the film discussion group in the membership was Arrival. And in that film, I don't know how many of you have seen it, but in that film, it shows you how language alters your perception, and shows you how language has multiple dimensions. And this is what I show in revealing the hidden messages behind film, television, and news events. And so it's easy to sort of dismiss that this is not really there, or that I'm just seeing it because I'm focusing on it. Well, yes, I'm seeing it because I'm focusing on it. How else would I see it? But some people will say that I'm just making it up because I'm focusing on it. The case. There's many ways of seeing it. It's why it's called symbolism, because symbolism has multiple meanings. And everything is symbolism: letters, numbers, music, sigils, what have you. It's all representing multiple things at the same time. So you can understand that things have multiple meanings, then you can start to see the multidimensional nature of this reality and understand that it's not what you thought it was. So I can understand that it's very difficult, because I've been there, to move from seeing that everything is real to seeing that everything is on the world stage and it's projected out there, has nothing to do with me. And then to move to, we are literally in a movie, and it's a projected movie from consciousness from within the dreamer. So it's a hard transition to make. And I'm gonna see if I can remember. I don't know if I can remember what switched it for me. I know if there's anybody in the chat who remembers what switched it for them. So, because I know like several people in the membership, they're saying that they now see things as a dream. And for me, that process of moving from things being out there on the world stage to seeing things as a dream, as a movie, the movie was during 2020-ish, like around that time. Because 2020 to me is like the few years that event existed, and the events that happened within that event, like the protests and the truckers and that sort of thing. And I think for me, during the trucker phase, I mean, I was seeing it and I was experiencing it, but when it finally clicked for me that this is a movie was during the trucker protest in Ottawa, and I could fully comprehend that this was a movie. And now the most recent shift is the plethora of synchronicities and the way in which reality has morphed and warped and transformed as a result of all the work that I've done. I now see it all as a dream. And so it's all of these things, it's all of these things. It's real, it's a staged performance, it's a movie, and it's a dream. And it's very, it can be very difficult and challenging for your mind to take all of that in at once and to be able to see it. But it's like when you climb a mountain and you have a higher perspective than someone who's just starting to climb the mountain. The person who's just starting to climb the mountain isn't going to be able to see what's at the top of the mountain, the view from the top of the mountain. And when you're at the top of the mountain, you have seen the view as you ascend the mountain. So you remember what the view was like as you climbed it. But for the person who's just climbing it for the first time, they don't know what it looks like until they get there. So nobody knows. Don't know if my perception recognized the dream at this point, but definitely indicated something unusual was when TV started mirroring my life in synchronicity. Yeah, like that is really the thing that has, has shown me how this reality is not 3D, it's not physical. And a lot of the street theater experiences that I've had, and I started having an awareness of street theater, I would say around 2020-ish. But really understanding now that the whole universe is talking to me at all times. And it's, yeah, around 2020. Yeah, like it's like I understand that this reality is like very intelligent and complex. It has a sense of humor, and nothing feels real, and yet I'm forced to interact with the 3D, my job, so I can rent my house, and it's very challenging and aggravating. Yeah, that's also part of it too, is because going through the sort of living in two worlds phase where you understand that it's not real, but you're still having to deal with the 3D in a 3D fashion, and that's kind of frustrating because you ultimately want to be able to live in the dream mindset permanently. And when you are perceiving the weirdness of this place and the not realness or the synchronicities and the street theater, all of that, seeing the movie, understanding what the nature of this reality is more on an intellectual level, it's very difficult to align that with living in the 3D world and having to deal with 3D mundane stuff. And for a long time, I was frustrated with that also. It was also very painful. It was painful because I was fed up with the mundane, and I found the mundane to be tiresome and boring. And I just really wanted more of the magic and the synchronicities and that. But it's a phase, really. It's kind of a natural phase that we have to go through in understanding that the 3D is a reflection, and I kind of view it now as something to be read. It's something to be read, but also something to be experienced. Like you can enjoy the experience kind of like, even though I was intellectually knowing that was in a movie, it's a different experience to actually live in the movie, like be aware that you are living in the movie and live it like you are living in a movie, instead of living in the 3D knowing that it's a movie, you know. um, it takes a little while to shift from intellectually knowing something to actually living it. And I feel like the last little while, all of the synchronicities in street theater and everything that's been going on, and how I've been perceiving the world and breaking down all of these events and movies and shows and everything, I'm moving into living in the movie, living in the dream. And then that's when your 3D reality starts to morph to align to that. And um, it's starting to get there. So, yeah, if you're in that stage, just have patience and know that the mundane 3D, that living in two worlds feeling, it's, I mean, it'll last as long as it needs to, but just have patience and appreciate it for what it is, I guess, is the best way that I could say to get through it, because everything that you go through is an experience to be appreciated, even if it's not comfortable or all that pleasant. 911, Sunny Fair. Stephen Snow, first there's a mountain, then there's no mountain, then there's another mountain. Sure. For me, it was the moment I did the TV watching you exercise. Oh, that's cool. What happened? Is there anything you can share that happened that you can explain? Yes, you're describing my experience well. Okay, thank you. Leaves of grass. I'm glad I was able to explain it well, because I remember I made a video, I think it was in 2020, and I called it Living in Two Worlds. And it was seeing the weirdness. I was seeing the weirdness and yet living in the 3D mundane and trying to align the two, and it's impossible. And the more you start to see the weirdness, I don't know, personally, I want to live more in the weirdness. um because the weirdness is magical, the weirdness is truth, the weirdness is way more fun. But it's like the 3D mundane is, is supposed to be fun. And we've become so tied to the 3D and the external as real that we've kind of stripped the fun away and brought it down to this like boring, like, get an education, get a job, get married, buy a house, have kids, and then you die. Like, how boring can it get? Seriously. Like, our purpose for existing is to make money and buy stuff and accumulate things. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. And I think a lot of times I'm just going to call it the ascension journey for understanding's sake. In our ascension journey, we forget that that's what life was boiled down to. And so if a lot of people on their ascension journey can get spooked and pulled back into the 3D and pulled back into, dealing with all of that mundane, basic stuff, survival stuff. And yes, we have to deal with it. Yes, it's part of the challenge of being here, but that's not all there is, right? So it's yeah, it's not all there is. Just watch Mulholland Drive and shows how we're living in a dream. Yeah, I think I think I saw Mulholland Drive a few years ago, and I'm not quite sure. Um, well, a lot of movies show that we're living in a dream, and some interpret it as simulation. And so it's as far as I understand it, is it's kind of like technology in a sense. I mean, you could call a lot of things technology that aren't actually technology. That's sort of mental technology that is advanced more than what we're aware of. It's still technology, but our understanding through the 3D, which is being projected out in the fear sense, is this AI stuff. AI is advancing at a rapid pace, and yet it's still very basic. It still can't do a lot of things that a human can do, and is not as intelligent as they sort of tell us that it is. It's useful on a sort of robotic level, but yeah. Um, when you say you're bored, what are you bored of? Leaves of grass? Because you're saying sorry as if you're bored of this stream, or are you bored of your 3D reality? Um, Miriam, it blew me away that it was so pinpointing down my life and giving me answers. It made me cry at the time, but also it made me realize it is me doing that. I am watching myself as in a movie, commenting. Yeah, commenting and advising myself. Yeah, that's why I encourage people to do the TV watching you exercise, because it will blow your mind. Um, the reason so like the TV watching you exercise is just like, okay, the way I would describe it is just like the decodes that I do. It's just like um reading tarot cards, or anything like that, because essentially what you're doing is like, it's like taking a magazine, cutting it up, creating a collage, and that collage is a representation of where you are right now. So you can do that with these TV shows, and it will reflect back to you where you are. And um, it's beautiful and also kind of freaky all at the same time. So yeah, like I love doing the TV watching you exercise. I find it so much fun. And I know some people are afraid of it because it's new and it's different and they don't understand it. And, they think that it's, demons in the television or something, but it's not. It's not separate from you. It's all the same material. So it's you talking to you. And that's what street theater is. Synchronicities are. It's all you talking to you. And this separation is very hard to wrap your head around, and it takes a while to get accustomed to seeing things that way. So, be patient with yourself. If you're still not seeing things that way, just be patient with yourself. I mean, maybe you won't never see things that way, and that's okay too. Hello, P. Peace to all. Smells like wildfire smoke in New York. Pinkish skies. Really? Okay. So I wonder where those fires are coming from, because it might be coming from Jasper. I don't know. I don't know where it's coming from, because we had really bad wildfires in Jasper, and that's a part of BC near Alberta, and they're massive. They just destroyed one of the most beautiful places in the world, and it's devastating. And there's going to be more of this, like these, I guess you'd call them plasma fires. I don't know how that's going to unfold, and basically, I just see it as part of the story. So I'm not really concerned about it, but if it's near you, like, it is a real physical 3D issue. So, protect yourself if you need to. But like I say, like, I don't talk about fear stuff. I don't talk about prepping or any of that. It's not anything I'm concerned about. To each his own. If that's something you need to pay attention to or deal with, then that's your choice. Widow's son, how can I inquire about interviewing you? Well, I'm not familiar with your channel. Well, I guess email me. It was only in the afternoon hours. That's really interesting. It's like, this is the whole thing with the fires and how it is, coming into the different areas of the world. Like last year, we had the pink skies and the smoke taking over, lasting for days, and that's never happened here before. So to see how that has taken over as strongly as it did, that event that happened last year with New York skies going red and gray even and full of smoke. I mean, it was bad here. I'm near Toronto. So the forest fires were in Ontario and that smoke traveled south to New York, but I don't really understand how, because smoke rises, and that was very strange. But like I say, it's all part of the show. Yes, nobody knows, like you say, like the Aurora Borealis, that event was interesting. Being able to see that so far south. I, of course, have not been able to see it at all. I think at the 42nd parallel, and it's like, how did I not, every time that it's supposed to have happened, the clouds covered the sky, so I couldn't see anything. But people to the south of me, apparently people in Florida were able to see it. So, I mean, that's quite far south. So, I don't know. So yeah, there's been a lot of these sorts of anomalies and strange events and interesting things. Miriam, same for me. I did not see it. Yeah. So that's really interesting. And I think you're probably a little bit further north than me, Miriam. Like the UK is a little bit further north. Yes, I did see the eclipse. I saw the eclipse, and that was spectacular. So, like I say, I'm down for seeing the show. I like watching the show. I know some people might get offended with my perspective, and I'm respectful of other people having a different perspective, and they might find it offensive that I don't take it seriously because there isn't any reason to. But if other people have a different perspective, that's totally acceptable. However, they're not tolerant of other people having a different perspective because they can't see beyond the 3D perspective, that what's happening out there is real. And it's interesting. Like, one of the things that I talked about on the podcast was how these differing perceptions with the left versus the right. how polarizing they are, how extremely different they are, how warped and twisted they are. And it's kind of disturbing to read. And it's also very mentally painful to read. If you go on Twitter and you see how certain people have this warped perception of what's happening in these various events, you know what's going on. And their perception is very twisted. And I don't even want to begin to participate or engage with some of these people with their perspectives, because I don't, first of all, don't care, but it's painful to even read these perspectives because they're so warped. But it's easy to understand why they have those perspectives. Like, say, for example, even if you just look at it in terms of supporting Trump or Kamala Harris, there's some level-headed people in the middle, and then there's the extremists who have these really strange perceptions, and they kind of get their perceptions from reading the headlines, and they don't really do their own research, and they point the finger at each other and have strange beliefs that they've picked up from the media that aren't even true. And when somebody tries to correct them, they won't look at it. They won't even entertain that it's possibly wrong. And then there's also like the propaganda over what actually happened July 13th. So there's all of the like citizen journalists who are bringing to light all of the discrepancies. And some of those people are even on a spectrum of the polarizing perspectives of the left versus right, trying to toy with your emotions and your perceptions. And then there's the people in the middle who are actually showing, some decent journalism and doing some decent work. But yeah, like, just sort of stay away from all of it. I do. I only look at it to see what people are thinking and what's happening and get a sort of finger on the pulse of it, because I want to understand what's going on. I want to know where people are at and what the momentum is. But yeah, it's all theater, like P says here. So Miriam says, yeah, you saw that other people saw the aurora borealis in your town, but you didn't. That's really odd. So yeah, like, if I look at the poll at the moment, we got 4% believe that it's real. Okay. And 42% that it's the world stage out there. 8% are not sure. Okay. And 46% say it's part of the movie we're in. Okay, interesting. So that's pretty decent. I appreciate everybody who participated in the poll. And I find it's very helpful for me to be able to address your perspective, because, if I can talk at my perspective, but I also want to talk at the other perspectives, so that, you feel that I understand where you're coming from, and I understand what you're experiencing. I mean, I was there too. So, but yeah, like, going back to the TV watching you stuff, it's fascinating, because basically, I mean, you're going to see you're going to see what your perception is as well, in the sense that if you think things are scary, and you're going to find it scary, but if you're going to find it scary, you probably wouldn't do it in the first place. So I find that doing it relieves the fear, because you understand what it's showing you, right? And you have the opportunity to see it firsthand, to experience it firsthand, as opposed to someone else showing it to you and not not believing it, or you can excuse it away then, can't you? Because if you do it yourself, you can't excuse it away. And that's why I think I've done it 4 or 5 times, something like that. And I've done it a few times without recording, like that, without uploading a video on it. But every now and then I like to do the TV watching you exercise for fun, to see what it's showing me. And it's kind of like a condensed version of synchronicities. It's like taking a slice of the pie and sort of testing to see what it is showing me. But it's because it's condensed, because you're cutting pieces out of different shows and putting it all together. It's like condensed synchronicities. And it's really quite a powerful exercise and fun. I find it fun too. But yeah, it is going to get pretty interesting out there. And I really encourage you to not get pulled into the drama of it. But like I say, we all have our own journeys. We all have our own individual path to take. But also, like, the censorship is going to increase, like, with the media manipulation and everything that's being put out there. But like, I'm glad. Okay, so of the people, I don't know if you're still listening, but of all the people who say that it's the world stage out there, how many of you still think that it's in terms of like world stage, it's still real, in the sense that it's staged, it's a psyop, it's a Freemasonic setup, all of those sorts of elements, but there's still a real aspect to it, in the sense that some, like, people have been hurt, or do you fully believe that it's all staged fakery? What perception within that range do you have of what constitutes the world stage out there? Because there is a broad range within the world stage out there, and a lot of different people, their interpretation of what that means is varied. So I want to try to better understand where your perception is at. Because yeah, like, every now and then I'll listen to some, I guess you'd call them shill channels or that sort of thing, or conspiracy channels, and sort of go back to remember what it was like for me several years ago, and to see where people are at, because it seems like there's a broader landscape than there was in 2017, 2018, when I first came across a lot of this information. And a lot of the subjects that I came across, say like transvestigations, or the fakery and that sort of thing, there's a lot more awareness. There's a lot more symbolism channels, but a lot of them are very Christian based. There's a lot more decoding channels, even amateur, like, there's the shill decoding channels, and then there's like the, I guess, say amateur, but like regular people who are decoding and trying to do things on their own. And so even that is rising. But even so, the overall perspective of what I'm seeing is still kind of fear-based. It's still looking at them and the elite, and that they are doing this to us, and that they are evil, and that they are, all the symbolism is evil, and all the symbolism is like the Antichrist, and there's a lot of fear in that. And so there's a lot of that there's a lot of that coming up, which is understandable because within the sort of conspiracy community, the conspiracy community is all around the fear. And you have to go into that perspective to be able to come out of it. At some point, there either you get stuck in there, or at some point you start to see that there's more to it. So I am noticing a rise in those types of channels. And so like the foundation of the so-called conspiracy community is expanding. Leaves of Grass. I am in the camp of fake, 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 hard eye roll on channel, still discussing stories taken from the headlines. Yeah. So like fake, fake, fake is like, in what sense? Like that they're putting on a play? Like, is it a 3D fakery, or is it a more supernatural fakery? It's like this is one of the hurdles, is going from the 3D fakery to the supernatural fakery. I guess you would call it supernatural fakery because it's beyond 3D. So there's a lot of, what is that? Is that a tomato in the truth community? Almost every community has been infiltrated. Yeah, every community has been infiltrated, if you want to put it that way. Every community has its set of shills, their set of gatekeepers, because first of all, it's to bring awareness. Second, to partly gatekeep, like keep the people in that pen who are not intended to go any further, and until they start to see the cracks, and then they start to progress and they move further and move beyond that. But plants, thank you. Yeah, there are a lot of plants in every community, and this is what I'm noticing right now, particularly in light of what has happened since July 13th and the Olympics, and especially the Olympics. Like, the symbolism has made people more aware of symbolism, and the Christian community YouTubers are all talking about it. So it's bringing to the forefront awareness of the symbolism to Christians. And it'll be interesting to see what this does to that community, because it's like, how long are you going to go in the fear before you realize there's more to it? How long are you going to look at the symbolism and think that it's all evil before you realize that it's not? So this sort of good versus evil talk is only going to keep you on the pillars, keep you in the duality. And it's a huge challenge to overcome that good versus evil mentality, because a lot of people need to hold on to it. They need to hold on to something out there to point at and blame, because if they don't have that, then the only thing they have left is themselves. And, changing that perception is tough. Realizing that it's you is tough. It is very tough. Leaves of Grass. I enjoy the symbolism discussions, but if they go to the fear-based direction, I'm out. Yeah. I can't even watch those channels anymore. I couldn't watch much of the sort of Christian channels to begin with, because they and I focus on that because they're very prevalent. They're very dominant in that area, because Well, first of all, the majority of people in North America are Christians, so it's a very big community, and they're very outspoken about these sorts of things. Anything that they perceive to be evil, they will talk about it, and then that's a very fear-minded perspective. So, um, it's also empowering. Knowing it is all you makes it kind of simple. Miriam, understanding that you are at the center of it all. How are you, you know, it's such a huge responsibility, but then it's also empowering to say, well, I have the power. And you have to figure out how to take that power back. And that's difficult too. Or it can be. I mean, um, it's all challenging, but I don't want to put on anybody that it's difficult. For some people it may not be, but some people might just jump in and say, wow, this is great, this is all me, this is fun, and then they get it. But it has been difficult for me, and Miriam says it's difficult for her too. So yeah, like, we all have our challenges, and I'm not saying this to sort of say anything against Christianity per se. I grew up in a Christian household and everything. Hey, Trixie. Like with my child right now. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's just the mindset that anything that is foreign or strange or unusual or scary looking is evil, without really understanding it. And I was there too, until I came across, I think it was people saying that the sacred geometry was satanic, and I could not understand that. How can sacred geometry be satanic? And yoga, and yoga brings out demons, and I'm like, what? This is lunacy. And there's reasons why people believe this sort of stuff. There absolutely experiences that people have in bringing up hey, Sensu, the answers are not outside. Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I will talk about that in a second. But yeah, like a lot of the things that they were saying are evil. It just didn't make any sense. Like, how is a circle evil? How is a square evil? How is a cube evil? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And it's just like things they're neutral, and you can't, like, how can you put upon a circle or a sphere or a cube and say that it's evil? I don't understand that. So nobody knows. Also, a great way to identify where you are in the alchemical process. Yes, like, you mean the TV watching you, the decoding and everything is totally a great way to understand where you're at. But also, like, symbolism and synchronicities and messages outside of us. This is kind of to Miriam's point. You can get answers from outside of you because it's a mirror. So, in the sense of like putting all of your power outside of you, that's an imbalance. And putting all of your power on the inside of you is also an imbalance. But it's when you balance the two, and it's like the way that I balance the two is I do the inner work, and I look to myself to see, what am I thinking? What am I doing? How am I behaving? How is it that my perception is affecting what I'm seeing in the 3D? And how can I change that if I need to? And that's the inside work that I do. And then I will look at the 3D as a mirror of what's going on and not really put, I'm at the stage now, I'm at the stage now where I'm not putting as much emphasis on the 3D as I used to. And I used to react to the 3D, and I'm talking about my own life. I'm not talking about the world stage, but I'm talking about my own life. And hello, Reverend Galileo. I'm glad you could join us. I'm adding you guys as moderators. There's no pressure. You don't have to do anything. It's just in case we get, like, you know, unwanted trolls and such, which hopefully we won't. But anyway, yeah. The stage that I'm at now is I used to put a lot of emphasis on the 3D and react to the 3D and think that the 3D, the reason these sorts of things are happening is because it means this. And now I'm able to look at it and say, what do I want it to mean? How can I change my perception so that my perception benefits me? And I don't immediately think the worst or immediately jump to fear or immediately jump to, oh, you know, this is happening because of this negative thing. And that is the empowering part, right? So if it's down to you and you're looking at your 3D circumstances and you're seeing something that's unwanted, how do you turn that into something positive? And like, I have several videos where I talk about turning the negative into a positive and the alchemical process involved in that. And this is part of it. Part of it is looking at the things that happen to you in your own life that you previously perceived as negative, and how do you interpret them as positive? So it's seeing the multidimensional nature of those things and making it work for you, because otherwise you're just creating suffering for yourself. And then in creating that suffering, you perpetuate the suffering because you end up manifesting more of that, because that is a belief that you're reinforcing. So when you see something manifest in your life that you used to perceive as unwanted, like say say somebody says something mean to you and you determine that that person doesn't like you, then you've solidified in your brain, that person doesn't like me, therefore they say mean things to me. So then that person's going to come to your experience, and it may not even be in the form of that person. It might be other people as well. They'll come into your experience and they'll say things to you that you don't like, and then you'll reinforce the belief that they don't like you. So if you are able to change your perception, whether you know you had the evidence of it or not, doesn't matter. Like, if you, this is why you get to the stage of seeing the 3D as malleable, as not real, as not fixed, as not 3D, not physical, and you know, determining that is what it is, and it is bad. It's like, yes, it's unpleasant when somebody says something negative to you, but if you can see on the flip side that it's benefiting you in a way that is making you stronger, it's benefiting you in a way that is helping you to see that there are people out there who have this opinion. It's benefiting you in understanding that somehow you manifested this. So there's some part of you that is saying this to yourself, or is attracting this into your experience to draw attention to something that you need to resolve or heal within yourself. Then you can transmute it into something beneficial, and it should go away because there's no need for it to come into your experience anymore. So it's this, the 3D mindset, when you're looking out there and you're pointing at it and saying, well, this person's mean and they hate me and they don't like me and they keep saying mean things to me. Well, yes, they that is what's happening. And you can say that that is what's happening. And it's okay to look at it that way. But when you switch it into something beneficial, so that you can clear it from your experience, then you take your power back. Because if you're looking at somebody out there and you're saying, well, that person's mean to me, you become the victim of something that's happening to you from outside of you, which there is nothing outside of you happening to you. So you want to be master of your domain, and being master of your domain is taking the things that happen to you and turning it into something that you happen to, that you take control of. You are the one who dominates. So where are we? Some people are so enveloped in fear, they're scared of their own shadow. Indeed. Yes, P. Oh, sorry, Miriam. Yes, with outside, I mean outside my perception. But there is no outside of your perception, because it's all your perception. So, you can't possibly have anything come into your experience without it being part of your perception, because you can't perceive it. Some people are okay, I already read that. Or a color is evil, or a plant is evil, or an animal is evil. Yeah, exactly. Leaves of grass. And it just gets ridiculous. It's like, how is orange evil? It's just a color. Oh no, it's evil. It's satanic. Reverend Galileo, when you look within you, realize you are okay no matter the outside circumstances. Yeah. It's there was one exercise that I did a long time ago, when I think it was 2008 or something, and I was practicing Eckhart Tolle and that sort of thing. And one of the exercises was kind of like a grounding exercise to check with yourself. And especially if you're going through something that's upsetting, and it would cause you to look within to say, well, how am I right now? What's going on with me right now? Am I okay? Well, yes, I'm here. I'm okay. I'm not dying. I'm not there's nothing really awful happening to me right now. I'm okay. Okay, so then it's just your perception that is creating the idea that there's something happening outside of you that's fearful. And centering yourself and being able to focus on what's happening now takes you away from the thought that you're projecting into the future or hanging on to in the past as fearful. Happened for you, not to you, half glass full. Yes, exactly. Happened for you or because of you. It happened because of you. And I heard too, on another live stream, I think it was a live, whatever, another video, someone said that their glass is overflowing. And someone said, well, I used to be a glasses half full kind of person. Now I'm going to be a glasses overflowing person. I like that. That's what I meant. Okay, Miriam. Thank you. Yeah, there's like a lot of like sayings that have been thrown about that I've been challenging. And I'm challenging it because I want to understand it, and I want to know, is it true or is it not? And one of those is that there's no out there. And like, what does that actually mean? Because it was put forward by a theoretical physicist, and we know that those people are bunk. But basically, theoretical physicists seem to be philosophers, and they're just sort of bouncing around ideas and trying to back it with numbers, but they don't actually have any practical physical evidence to support it. So And if you saw my Oppenheimer decode, it was in there. Excuse me. But yeah, there's a theoretical physicist who's the one who coined the term, there is no out there. And so I am inclined to lean to that that's not true. But I'm not going to say that it isn't true until I've proven it to myself. But in terms of like what actually is out there, if we're in a dream, then there is no out there. It's all in our head anyway. So yeah, like that's basically how I interpret it, is that we're all in a dream, so there really is no out there. But even in a dream, there's a perception of out there. And it's kind of like when you're in a video game, it's the same sort of thing. There's the perception of there being this three-dimensional world inside the TV screen, but the TV screen is just it's just a piece of thin material in front of you. It's flat. There is no three-dimensional. It's an optical illusion. So I kind of feel that way too when I'm walking. If you're walking and you close your eyes, there's no movement. You feel the movement of your feet, but you're not feeling the movement of anything else. You're stationary, you're still. There's a stillness within you. The masculine hemisphere projection, logical explanation of the metaphysical, mystical. Sorry, can you clarify that? Nobody knows? Because I'm going to take it in my own tangent wherever I want to go. So like the masculine projection, logical explanation of the metaphysical, mystical. So we were talking earlier about not being able to listen to certain channels. And like some of that is some of these masculine channels who are, and look, when I talk about masculine and feminine, I'm not like hating on men or anything. So please don't misunderstand me. And it's the masculine energy, and it's the divine masculine, divine feminine. We must come together. And the rise of the feminine, the divine feminine, is a natural process. And by the result of the natural process of the rising of the feminine, the masculine has to realize that this patriarchal structure is false. And I mean, it's true in the sense of the reality in which we live, this false reality, this inverted reality, but it's also part of the reason why we have an inverted reality. And so that's what I'm talking about. And I'm not at all, it's a toxic energy that is within everybody, male and female. So please don't misunderstand and think that I'm hating on men, because I'm not. But yeah, like there's some channels that are talking about metaphysical stuff, and they're talking about it from a very, very heady space, a cerebral space, and they're not talking, it doesn't sound like they're talking about it from an experience position. And they can philosophize or intellectualize about it all they want, but until you like experience it, it's a different it's a different experience, a different perception. It's a totally different thing. And so, yeah, like the intellectual part of it is important, because becoming aware of it is important, and it usually comes before you experience it. But I find it frustrating to listen to some of these channels that are purely intellectual, just mostly discussing ideas and philosophy. Part of you talking about the philosopher. Yeah. Dr. Juan, hey, how you doing? Just listen to part 1. Consider how much focus the USA is getting of the events in the UK. Yeah, the US is getting a lot of information. Oh my goodness. We're going to go back to that. The uprising in the UK, I was curious to see what was on the news, because I don't have television. I have apps. I have Roku. So I clicked on Sky News in the UK, which I happen to have here, just to see what the news was saying. And oh my God, the twisted perception that the news is putting forward is shocking to me. I'm horrified. I am horrified by what is being shown on Sky News. And I'm also seeing YouTubers who are on the streets showing what's actually happening, which is contradictory to what is on the news. But it is reminiscent of what happened during the trucker protest and how there were people on the ground showing what was happening and how it conflicted with what happened in the media. But these people were also twisting the narrative and, sort of victimizing the protesters and saying that these people were getting arrested and all this sort of drama on the street that was part of the story, shall we say. In the Netherlands, hardly any info. We're getting a lot of it here, but most of it, I'm seeing most of it through YouTube. But we have a very heavy British population here. Obviously, North America was founded by the British and the French. But yeah, there's huge British population over here. And we also have a very big multicultural population. And apparently there's some sort of social backlash in Canada against immigration that's happening at the moment. I'm not really aware of it. I saw one article about it. But I don't know if that's trying to push something or not. I don't know. But yeah, so it looks to provoke the exact opposite in the United States. Consider which nation has cameras everywhere, which nation can carry something that cannot be carried in the other. Sorry, I don't understand the last statement. Which nation can carry something the other cannot be carried in the other? I don't understand that. Yeah, there's been protests here as a result of the war that happened recently. And even that, there's a lot of misinformation. I'm not in the United States, so I don't know what's being shown there. But up here in Canada, we do get a lot of American media. But I do know, America, for as much information that we do get from America, there's still a lot of differences between the propaganda that's shared in Canada versus what's shared in the United States. And yeah, I would agree with you, P. I'm not going to read that out loud because it could cause problems. But I've been saying that this was coming since I think 2018-ish. And so, yeah, it's to be expected. And a lot of people have been saying this, so it's not like it's shock. But there's a problem on Twitter with Elon Musk saying that. So if Elon Musk can't say it, then I sure can't. Jack Arwood. It's hard right now to rise above what the news is showing and not be triggered. I can't imagine how it's affecting the regular asleep Joe Blow. Where does this go? Yeah. Thanks for commenting, Jack. It is hard. It is hard, but this is why it's important to change your perception and understand what this reality is. Because if you're believing that all of this is real 3D stuff, then you're going to get caught up in the drama. And, the more you are able to see this reality as a dream, as a movie, and understand that that's really what's going on here, you're detached from it. You don't need to detach yourself from it. You don't need to actively detach yourself. You automatically are detached from it because you know what it is. Whereas if you are trying to detach yourself and you're seeing this stuff and you get caught up in it and you react to it and you're like, well, I can believe that that's not real, but that's real. And if you're caught in that sort of game, then you're still in the 3D. You're still looking at the 3D as real. It's all the same thing. It's all just a show. So I can understand, because I was there too. I thought, well, some of these are real and some of these are not. And now, no, it's all just part of the show. But it's difficult to get there. It takes a while. So yes, I can imagine the people who are, as you say, the regular Joe. It has got to be upsetting. It's got to be very upsetting, and that's the point. The point is that those people are supposed to get upset. Those people are supposed to get triggered, as you say. Rod, hello, Rod. Haven't seen you for a while. Dad, stop watching the news. I find myself saying this more and more these days when I go to visit and see him getting all worked up over how bad and evil this world is getting. Yeah, like, I don't know. I have had that discussion with my mom for many years. She will not stop watching the news. My dad can't watch it anymore, but my mom, she won't let it go. And I think she has this sort of, interest in that sort of stuff. So she's drawn to it, and then, whatever, to each his own. Like, if she's going to watch it, that's her path. But she's now moving more into the alternate news territory and starting to see that the news is manipulated and that she can't trust it. So yeah, like, that's one argument that I had with her for many years, was like, why do you watch this stuff? It just gets you angry. It gets you all upset over something you have no control over. You can't do anything about a war in a country that's thousands of miles away. So why do you keep doing this to yourself? Why do you keep watching this if it's just going to upset you? What good does it do you? But no matter how many times I would say this to her, she wanted to watch it. She's like, oh, it's important that I know what's going on in the world. I'm like, no, it's not. If it doesn't positively affect your life, it's not. So yeah, I empathize with your situation. And yeah, a lot of people are, of that mindset where it's important that they know what's going on in the world. Well, I stopped watching the news like decades ago because of that reason, because it was just depressing, upsetting. And to me, I was like, well, why is the news always so full of trauma and drama? Why don't they ever report anything happy? And so I just stopped watching it. And when you stop watching it and you stop reading the newspaper or paying attention to any of it, obviously there's going to be some things that seep into your reality because everybody around you is still watching it. So they talk about it. But it's selective. So you're not pulling in all of it all the time, but your life is so much more peaceful. It's like there's nothing to disrupt your day or put you in a bad mood from something that has nothing to do with you. It's a story that's on TV. That's just like getting all upset over a movie that you watched. Like, but people get all upset about it because they think that that's the state of the world. But it's intended to give that impression. And when you're not watching it anymore, you realize how it's not actually happening in your real life. It's only happening because they tell you on the TV. That's the only place this stuff is happening. So that was a big eye opener for me, is realizing that, well, hang on, all of this horror stuff they keep telling us is happening in this world isn't happening in the real world that I live in day to day. I walk around, I'm not harassed by people, I'm not threatened, my life isn't in danger all the time, and I don't bump into people who've had people murdered, and like all of these horror stories that the news tells you to make you believe that the world is such a scary place is not happening. So why is it happening on TV all of the time, on the news all of the time, when it's not happening in real life? Miriam, have to go. Thanks, Miriam. Have a good day. The US, yes, it does. Light, hello. So yeah, like I don't know what, I don't know what the agenda is with the United States. I guess they want to rope the United States into something, but like the US is being dismantled. They do have that, as you say, Dr. One, they do have, that power, but their power is kind of diminishing on purpose. So, yeah, I don't really pay too much attention anymore about like where things are headed, because I don't like to predict things, but it does seem like they're moving in a certain direction with some kind of drama in mind. Without being too specific. Yeah, I can't be too specific, unfortunately, but yeah, it's a little bit disconcerting, the media manipulation. And I do find it entertaining, like Elon Musk and what he's like, when you think about it, like all of these billionaire people who take on sort of political tasks, why do they have a political voice just because they're rich? Like Elon Musk is going toe to toe with the prime minister of the United Kingdom. And, I'm going off of something that I heard in a video, so, take it with a grain of salt. But basically, Elon's been tweeting the prime minister, and the prime minister is bantering back and forth with Elon Musk. Like, why? Why does he feel the need to engage in conversation with somebody who doesn't even live in his country? Why does he feel the need to debate someone who doesn't have any authority over him? He's the leader of a country, a powerful country. And he's like talking to somebody on Twitter about his politics and how he's doing his job. That doesn't make any sense. Stein wins. Hello. Also, Trump got in trouble a while back when he mentioned the UK, what the UK is really like. Did he? I did not hear that. What did he say? See, this is the other thing that's bothering me. The whole Trump Kamala issue. I don't know if you're recognizing what's going on there, but from what I have seen, I have seen an overwhelming amount of propaganda steering people towards Kamala and away from Trump. And it's kind of scary the way they're twisting things. And like I say, I'm not in the United States. I don't have a horse in the race. I don't care. But I don't think that it's a good thing to have Kamala. She's not very intelligent. And she, she's got some, warped ideas, and she's being backed by, let's say, the Rainbow Group. So they're trying to get that community support behind her. And, you know, all I have seen, I mean, Trump has his flaws, but all I have seen and heard from him are sensible ideas, which is even more like disturbing, because they're painting him like he's the Antichrist, but the stuff that he says about what he wants to do sounds sensible from what I've heard. Like, I haven't listened to everything that he said, but from what I have heard, yeah, he says occasionally, he says some stupid stuff and he gets in his ego, and like that's the role he's playing for sure. But like that's what it seems like from what I have seen. So it's just all smoke and mirrors, illusion. Like I said, I don't really care about American politics. I'm just looking at the show and looking at what they're putting forward. The 3 girls, Southport 3 number cropping up, real or, sorry, I don't quite understand sunset lights. What's your question? The 3 number cropping up. Sorry, can you rephrase your question? But like the Southport, okay, so if you're not aware, I want to make you aware of, I have some free videos available on my website. And, you know, there's some videos I can't make public for obvious reasons due to sensitivities, but the Trump decode is available on my website for free for free site members and above. So if you're a paying member, you have access to all my weekly videos. There's a new level membership I just created that I announced in the monthly newsletter, and that level is called Charmed. It's an annual membership paid monthly, and it's $15 a month. You get access to all my videos, the weekly videos, that is, and all the other videos are separate for the other levels, the other tiers. And so you can go to my website, you can see the different levels, the different tiers, and you get access to the basic Discord group and a limited access to the membership section of the Discord group. So I introduced that because I wanted to broaden the opportunity for people to have access to my weekly videos. And so the Southport Decode, I made a video about the actual event, and I talked about, like, I had some sort of discussion on there, my commentary, but I also broke it down so that you could decode it with me and you could see how I go about decoding and try your hand at doing it so that you get that experience. And then I presented my decode. And if you like this format, let me know and I'll do more of them. But I thought it was a good way to encourage people to do it themselves with the ability to have the end result to measure against. And it's important too to be able to learn how to decode, because not just decoding the world stage performance, but and the movies and everything, but also your own life, like we were talking about earlier, you know, like the TV watching you and decoding what's going on in terms of street theater and what the mirror is showing you, because it's showing you where you are at in your ascension process and important information that's being shown to you. But also it helps you to unlock levels of perception, like we're talking before about how if your level of perception is it's all real and you're stuck in the fear-based consciousness that this is all real and, you know, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. If you're at a higher level of perception and you see it as a movie, you're not affected by it at all. In fact, you will see it as entertaining and fun. So somebody who's in the fear is going to be horrified by that perspective. But if you're in the perspective where it's just a show, it doesn't affect you. And it's not just a matter of belief or anything, it's backed by evidence. It's factually true. So you don't go back and revert back to the 3D being a real physical place once you've changed your perception to see that it isn't. So at the very least, the benefit of being a site member is subscribe to my newsletter so I can stay in touch with you and I can let you know what's going on. I've been leaving comments in the community tab so I can tell you what's going on, but it seems like either people aren't getting it or it's not getting seen. So I want to find a way to communicate with you all so you know what's happening. There's also my podcast. I've been putting up episodes weekly on there, and there's some really great decodes that I've been putting into my website. So there's some really powerful stuff that I've been doing, some of the most powerful decoding I have ever done. And it's showing some amazing, powerful truths that have really changed my perspective on a like profound level, and revealing details about what's happening in this world to like, unbelievable, how do I explain it? Like it's really changed my perception of not just my life and how I see things, but also like what's going on in the world and how to read it. So if you are able to, I encourage you to at least see the Trump decode and the Southport decode. So yeah, I encourage you to do that. And yeah, it's like I'm trying to maintain contact and interaction with you so that you understand like what's going on. And also I need to have some sort of way of sustaining myself. Otherwise I can't do this at all. So hopefully if you are able to and you enjoy my work and you get value from it, please become a member. You help me to stay on this platform. You help me put out information. You help me to be able to do this work. And it's very important work. And there's going to be a lot of shakeup going on that's going to cause a lot of upheaval. And there's not very many people who are talking about the things that I talk about, who are showing the things that I'm showing. And it's incredibly valuable information. And so I'm trying to do more work in the sense of helping. And if people don't want this, I won't do it because it's taking up a lot of my time. But I'm trying to implement more ways to get people involved in doing it themselves in a guided way. I don't particularly want to get into like courses and teaching and stuff, but I'm trying to do it in a way that's fun for me, fun for you, and beneficial for everybody. And but like there's also a balance of like how do I do this without burning myself out. So if I'm getting some feedback from you of what you would find helpful, that would be beneficial for me as well. So the podcasts are wonderful. Thanks, Sunsu. I'm glad you're enjoying them. And once seen can't be unseen. Nobody knows. Exactly. Like the things that I pulled out of this Southport decode was just mind-blowing. Like some of the stuff that, okay, all of the decodes that I have done to this point are generally holding the same message. And it is all the same message. And I'm not going to say that it's different because it's not. But the nuances that come out of these decodes, especially the Southport decode, which was actually particularly hard to crack. Kate Gate was hard to crack, and that's another one that's incredibly powerful. But Kate Gate was really hard to crack. Trump was pretty hard, but Southport was even harder. And they're getting increasingly more difficult. But with every decode that I do like this, I'm getting some incredibly powerful pieces of the puzzle and information that has really blown my mind and has helped me to see deeper into myself and this reality. And like, I don't even know how to articulate it because it's like moving from understanding that we're in a movie and understanding that we're in a dream to physically like experiencing that dream. And yeah, so like watching Southport and how it was connected to the TV series 1899, and all of that was incredibly powerful, and it was a synchronicity in real time. And witnessing the like reality folding on itself as a result. But like, if you've seen the Southport video that I put out, which showed so I put a collection of clips of what I was going to decode so that you have the foundation of where I'm going to go with it. And I pointed out a few things to say, okay, here's some things to look at, but I didn't point out everything. I kind of left it as a bit of a blank slate, which is kind of a, I guess, hard difficulty level. But if you want me to do different difficulty levels as well, I can do that. I can do like if it's beneficial for you, that is, an easier difficulty level where I point out more stuff. So anyway, I mean, I'm not going to do it for all events, just some events. So anyway, I pointed out some of this stuff so you know what to look at. But the thing that I found most powerful was in the witness and him telling the story. And like that was just so mind-blowing, like what it shows me. And you can really only get it from doing it yourself. I can show it to you, and I can show you what I see, which is beneficial. But it really shifts your perception when you do it yourself. So also, like, if you are going to do it yourself and you don't get what I get, don't be frustrated. It's okay. Like, you get what you get. You see what you see. And it's beneficial to you because it shows you where you're at, right? So it's not like a school test where you get it wrong. You're not getting it wrong. It's what you see. So, I noticed that some people are very reluctant to try their hand at decoding because either they don't know enough to do it, or it's frustrating because it's hard, and it's hard because it's unknown. Because if you don't know enough to do it yourself, and it can be frustrating and it can be painful when you're doing something you're not practiced at, but you only get better at it by doing it. So personally, the decoding stuff, it's the most powerful tool I've ever come across in ascension, in awakening, in understanding the nature of this place. Like, all of it is the single most powerful tool I have come across. And there's other tools that I have come across that are connected to law of assumption that are also very powerful in other ways for other reasons. But so anyway, 1 hour, 44 votes, 46 now. On Kamala, did you see that there are 2 stars in the Andromeda chained woman called Alamak and Syrah? No, I did not, Journeyman. Is there, I mean, I guess Alamak is Kamala backwards. But what is the significance of that? Do you know? Zop, hello. Podcasts are excellent. Thank you very much. She's back, baby. Yeah, like, again, if you haven't been to my podcast, I encourage you to subscribe and listen to my podcasts over there. Like I said, I'm on the podcast because I have a lot to say. And coming on here, is one thing, but, you know, I can talk without having to pretty myself up and be concerned with physical appearance. And I can say what I need to say, and I can put my thoughts together and edit it and do that in a fairly rapid fashion. When I get into making videos, as much as I love doing it, it takes a lot of time. So with all the things that I have to say, I thought it was a good idea to start a podcast so that I can get more out faster. And a lot of that, like, I do talk about events, I do talk about decodes, but I don't decode in the podcast. I talk about how the decodes affect me. I talk about um, sort of like different aspects or different perceptions of these events. So it's beneficial for you at any level. And I also talk about the play. Like, it's mostly about the play. It's about understanding the tarot play and changing your perception through ascension and what that means, and a wide variety of topics. So there's plenty for you over there. And right now it's weekly. So we'll see how it goes. And I'm glad you're enjoying them. But yeah. Also wanted to let you know some of my videos I've made available for individual purchase. I can't do it for all videos for various reasons. I only have limited space and ability to put them up there, and it takes. Anyway, there's technical issues involved that I can't put all of them up, and I won't be able to leave them up permanently because of the available space. So I might have to put them somewhere else eventually. But due to the nature of the content, so like the Southport decode and that sort of thing, I may not be able to put them on another platform. So, because people don't understand the stuff that I'm doing, so I've made individual videos or audio recordings available for any people who cannot afford to become a member and would like access to certain videos or certain pieces of information. And I'm trying to do more of that so that if you don't like memberships or whatever, then you have the opportunity to get one-offs and stuff and still support me. But I'm going to try to put like ebooks and audio and that sort of thing, but it does take up a lot of time. So I want to make sure that I curate the content in the best way possible. So some of the stuff, like everything flows and is connected to and builds on the previous content. So this is why the membership is the best way to access all of my content. And it's also the cheapest, but it's like everything builds on the previous. So, and I also refer to other events. So it's very difficult if you look at something in isolation to totally follow. I mean, you still extract a great deal of information from it, and very valuable information from it, but you get the most benefit when you are able to see what came before it and see how it fits in succession and see how it is all connected, because all of it is connected. So that's my recommendation to you. But yeah, it's available, and I'll try to put out more if people are interested. Sarah Harris backwards. Oh, is it? Oh, of course it is. I think with all this, there's several different ways to interpret the mythic layer. Andromeda offered to the Kraken, rescued by Perseus. It's also the galaxy, supposedly on a collision course with the Milky Way. Oops, sorry. Okay. So that's interesting. Well, I'm not familiar with that particular myth, so there might be something in it, and it might be her story. And it's interesting that it's backwards, so maybe her story is an inversion of that. I don't know. Reverend Galileo, what platform are the podcasts on? I don't find time to listen as much in the summer months. It's on Spotify. And as time goes by, if I get enough subscribers, then I'll start to put it on other platforms. Um, I I need to get to 100 in 60 days. So that would be the 1st of September. And I think I'm at like almost 60 now. So if you can help support just by subscribing, that would be great. In your podcast, you said something like these events are sifting and sorting people into different frequencies in order to sort out where we land in the end. Can you elaborate? Zop. Thanks for asking. Yeah, like it's all based on perspective. So these events are deliberately meant to provoke and upset and draw attention to those particular events, symbolism, all of the things that are going on around it. So there's like, okay, P, thanks for dropping in. Have a good day. So all of these events that are happening are causing a lot of upset. Say, like, for example, the Olympics, it's meant to trigger, and it's meant to provoke, and it's meant to get you to pay attention to the symbolism. And so certain people will wake up as a result. Other people will get more polarized as a result of it and become even more rigidly placed in, let's say, Christianity, because that was a direct attack on Christianity. And so their belief system will become more fixed where they are, whereas other people might wake up. Other people might say, hey, how are you calling this evil? I don't understand. And there's all of these other channels, like the Christian channels, who are raising awareness of symbolism to perpetuate that, right? Because the human instinct is curiosity, or seeking out other people who are like-minded. You want to see what they think, which is why we have YouTube and Reddit and that sort of thing, social media, because we want to connect with other like-minded people. And it also helps with our need to vent. So if we're frustrated with something and we find that somebody else is feeling the same way, and they're on a public platform saying what you feel a little bit validated, and like you don't need to say anything because somebody said it for you. So at every level, there's going to be someone who's going to help meet your needs. And so you've got let's say, for argument's sake, the base level is the Christian who digs his heels in as a reaction to what happened in the Olympics. And then you have the sorry. Then you have the people who are on the side of the rainbow group, and those people might dig their heels in on that side. So you could look at that as the solar and lunar pillars. So, and then there's going to be people who break through that and see the symbolism, and they start studying symbolism, and they start to see more. Some people get caught up in the symbolism level and they'll stay there. It's kind of like the truth journey, right? So you get caught up in the conspiracy level and you'll stay there. Some never leave, and then others progress on. So that's what I mean, is basically forming another pyramid where people are going to be distributed according to that pyramid. And there's, some at the top who get all of it. And then it's going to be built on the foundation of all the people at the bottom who are basically still in ignorance. And the people at the top, their job is to help filter the information down so that the people at the bottom have an opportunity to see the truth if they choose to. But that's like the new distribution system. I mean, everybody's got to be shaken up and sort of find their way through the chaos and the truth confusion to find their place on the pyramid, on the new pyramid. Does that make sense? Journeyman, Clash of the Titans featured this, also involved Decodes. I remember seeing Clash of the Titans. So yeah, gotta have a look at that and see what that says, because I'm not overly familiar with that story. I've seen Perseus, like Perseus and the Minotaur. But it'd be interesting to see how you would interpret that in terms of like how it's going to play out for Kamala. But thanks for sharing that information. That's really interesting. So did that help, Zop? I'm going to wrap things up here. It's been a couple hours. I'm losing my voice, but I wanted to say thank you for joining me and appreciate you. Okay, great. Thanks, Zop. Theseus is the Minotaur Slayer. You're welcome. Love your work. Thanks, Journeyman. Yeah. Yeah. So like, is it on the movie? Is this information that you mentioned, Journeyman, is that in the movie? Clash of the Titans movie? So yeah, like, be on the lookout for information that I share in the community tabs. And if you can subscribe to the newsletter, that'd be beneficial, because then I can keep in touch with you and let you know what's going on across my various platforms. Subscribe to my podcast, become a member, go check out the free videos, the Trump Decode, the Southgate information. There's also a podcast on Southgate and Trump. And yeah, and I'll see you in the Discord. Thanks for sharing. It's hard being awake in the world of sleep. 2 versions, older Harry Hamlin and a remake with Liam Neeson. Okay, so like that Minotaur story, the Kamala Harris stories, and the two versions of the movie. I'll let you guys finish your chat. Look up at the stars. Andromeda is chained up there, and somehow Kamala Harris is up there too. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate you being here. I wanted to reconnect with you all and see what you're doing and see how you're doing and how you're seeing stuff. We got 50 votes on the poll. Thank you very much for participating in that. It's very helpful. 50% say world stage out there, and 41% part of the movie we're in. 6% not sure, 2% real. Cool. All right, great. Thanks, everybody. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Okay, bye.